Welcome back, everyone, to the All New Nerds podcast. I am joined, as usually, by Levi and Gibbs. No Johnny today, but, we're going to do it just us three. And I think this is my first podcast back in a while. I've been hitting the lives, but I haven't been the last couple podcasts. So if you've been listening, I'm back for this one. So we're going to have a good show. We got a decent amount of stuff to talk about.
Kicking off the return with a grammatical error in the first 4 seconds.
It's good though.
Strong start.
What did I say?
You think usually?
No,
something was wrong.
Something was fishy with that.
I'm yanking your chain.
Yeah.
Anyone know what number this is off the top of their head?
Our podcast schedule is so inconsistent.
I lost track after like the 10th.
I was gonna say it feels like it's
76
been a little while since we've done this.
I would have guessed 60 something.
No, we're in the 70s.
We're in the 70s. We're old.
We have broken into the 70s.
Guys.
We're old, man. We're getting up there.
Last
this is
one was
75, actually.
75.
Whoa.
6. I guess 6.
75.
I remember when we were having midlife crises
quarters.
over
Yeah,
40
right.
and 50.
Three quarters of the way to 100.
We've been doing this. You've been doing this for over 2 years now. So it's
true. I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest new nerd. Yeah. Of the all new nerds, Ben is the most all new nerd. I am the medium nerd.
No, I'm the young nerd.
You're the old nerd.
Yeah.
But yeah, Johnny. Johnny goes to film school. He's shooting some stuff.
Well,
it happens.
That's usually how it goes. But his laptop is also broken.
His laptop is also broken.
Fun news. So. If you're wondering where that holiday special is,
it's on a hard drive.
It still is on a hard drive, not to be edited yet because Johnny is unable to edit it, and now it's sort of ridiculous to release it. But
he dropped it off at a laptop repair shop, and it got leaked to Congress. It's the whole thing.
It's going to be the seasonal special. It's no longer the holiday special.
Hunter Biden joke.
Yeah.
But it's still. Don't lose faith in us because it'll come out and it's going to be good.
And it's good.
It's good. Yeah, it's weird.
What I've seen so far.
Speaking of sequels that are much better than the original, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. The seasonal special is our Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. If I do say it to myself, like for real, like we changed up the style. We got some new talent in there. It hits different.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, we can kick this right off talking about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish because usually not really something we talk about. Like a DreamWorks animation movie would just fly right under the radar.
To see
gets no mention from the All New Nerds. But as I'm sure you've heard all around the internet, this movie is a banger.
Yeah. I'd say we're even a little late to the train because this movie has been. I only went to see it because I saw so much praise for it.
I thought it was a joke. I mean, it was a joke before Avatar came out. Like my friends were like, let us know how Avatar is because we're kind of in the outlier really in terms of the broad general audience of how many movies we watch. Most people don't go to the movies that often. And they were like, "Oh, Puss in Boots comes out the same day. You should go see that." And I was like, "Don't worry, I'll see it." Like as a joke, be like, "I'll watch it for you guys." And then after a while, I was like,
they dropped it on the same day as Avatar. Is that true?
It was like the second weekend.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bold.
But the trailers for this movie were not good. I will say that much. I mean,
I don't even think I've seen a trailer.
I don't think I saw.
Yeah, the trailers that I did see were not very good. There was a trailer where they played All Star, which is interesting to me because
was there?
That's a Shrek thing.
There's like a remix of All Star, which this movie is like very different than anything Shrek. So like it is weird to make that connection.
I can't even think of that tone.
But yeah, I don't know.
Either way, we all went to see it based on word of mouth. And if you have not seen it, take the words from our mouth and go.
Take them in, put them in here.
Take them right out. Put them in here.
Put them in your legs.
Go out to the big screen. Yeah. Go and see this like in a movie theater because it just is absolutely gorgeous animation. And I don't know, like before recording this, we've just been gushing about Puss in Boots for the last hour. So full disclosure.
Yeah, I know.
We like it a lot. And if you caught our most recent podcast about our top 10 movies of the year 2022, I think me and Levi agree probably would have made the top 10.
It would make the top 10.
None of us had seen it.
Definitely makes my top 10.
I mean,
you're allowed to pirate Disney movie. Whoa, maybe I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, what? That's a weird sense.
You're allowed to pirate certain animated movies from a certain company. You're not allowed to pirate Puss in Boots: The Last Wish because it is just like that.
It's worth it.
Go and watch it. Go and make them some money so we can kick off the Shrek cinematic universe.
The Shrek CU.
The SCU. Everyone's got to have a CU these days. Everyone's got to have a CU. I mean, it's hard to describe. It's just good. It's just really good.
So just go and watch it. It's everything
Great
about
music.
it is fantastic. And I wish we could talk about it the whole time, but unfortunately, I don't really think that's what most of our audience would really listen to. Well,
maybe
we can wrap
maybe
we can wrap up. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for
stick to the end of the stream to get the Puss in Boots, breakdown review.
It's true. Maybe we'll talk maybe a little bit about it later. But I do want to talk about sort of the main news of this past week or so, which was the Mando trailer, which we watched, we reacted to. But we haven't really talked about how well it's doing, which is sort of the most recent news because it is blowing up. Yeah. So,
do you want me to hit some numbers? Hit you with some numbers real quick?
Hit me with some numbers, Dill.
Hit me with some numbers.
Mandalorian Season 3 trailer drew a record. This is a record on Disney Plus. 83.5 million views in the first 24 hours.
Now that's a couple. That's a few.
And this is, don't get me wrong, Mandalorian's big. This is the third season of a show. Like, I feel like you'd expect that for a premiere of a show, but this is the third season. I don't know why it's doing so well. I don't get. I understand there's hype for this show.
So that's all on Disney Plus.
I believe so.
That's sort of absurd.
I don't think it's on YouTube.
No, on YouTube, it's only hit about 6 million views.
Well, okay. On the YouTube channel, then there's tons of people re-upload it to different places. Then they have Twitter embedded, and those get way more views on social media.
I think this is the number from Disney Plus, but
that's specifically
which is shocking to me. Just in Disney Plus,
wow,
which is nearly 12 times.
Okay, to be fair though, well over 100 million people have Disney Plus, and they don't do this with all trailers, but they put on this top scroll, they put new Mandalorian trailer.
And it was during the NFL, the playoff game.
Yeah, but why would that count to Disney Plus?
Yeah, that wouldn't count to Disney Plus. Someone's watching the game, they're like,
I gotta go Disney Plus. Either way.
Well, no. If it's not just drawing from Disney Plus.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm sure a lot of people saw it from there as well.
Yeah.
Just because they put it, they advertised it on there. Not every trailer does that, new Mandalorian trailer.
Previously, it was Obi-Wan, which was 58 million views.
Okay, so it blew out of the water by 30 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's just crazy.
Oh my God.
It sort of felt like this power Baby Yoda sort of put a nail in the coffin of the Bad Batch season 2. Officially, they don't care anymore. I think Star Wars Twitter changed their banner from Bad Batch over to Mando. It's come on, guys.
The show's not even airing for another month.
Yeah, it's sort of sad. We're all big Bad Batch fans here, but it's hard not to hop onto the Mando hype train.
Exactly.
It has left the station.
The Bad Batch finale, last 4 episodes, are going to be overshadowed by Mandalorian.
Big time.
Premiere, I'll be honest, which drops the same day. They didn't even do the Wednesday, Friday, which they definitely should have done. But no, both Wednesdays. So
I maintain that for both the channel, from a channel perspective, and just as a fan, the Loki Bad Batch Wednesday, Friday split was the best time I was having on Disney Plus.
That was
not only for the content, but just the I felt every day I was like, oh man, Loki just ended, and all those Loki episodes were awesome. I got Loki yesterday. Oh, and the next day I have a Bad Batch episode, and that was when Cad Bane was on Braca. It was just a chain of amazing content. And it was, I felt I could breathe between it and take it in.
It was fun.
Yeah, but man, Mando. So
we're gonna have a lot to talk about Wednesday streams. That's
yeah.
Before we would do, usually the podcast would be whatever dropped on Friday, and then the live stream was Wednesday, which was Loki. And so now it's just going to be I don't even know how we're going to structure it. Probably go with Mando, right?
We're just going to talk about Mando. When I say overshadowed, it's going to be overshadowed just what the media is talking about and just what people are going to be watching, viewership numbers. But yeah, even, YouTube channels, even small channels like us, it's just going to be hard not to talk about Mando because that's the big
This
thing.
feels very typical of Disney. This really feels like something they would do.
It feels like just an AI made this decision or something. I don't know.
Chat GPT or whatever.
It just is too bad when it's a couple of average Joes like us, could probably run Lucasfilm's marketing better than them.
Or Disney, Loki doing well. Loki doing really well on Wednesday destroyed the scheduling because now every show comes out on Wednesday, as if that's why. You know what I mean? It's so
I don't even know why even Wednesday. I know what they got going on at HBO is fantastic. Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, love it.
Do you think the majority of people watch not right when it drops, but the day it drops? Or do you think the majority of people watch it maybe
later? At least for the East Coast people, not the average fan is not staying up to 3 a.m. to
No,
watch
I'm not
it.
saying 3 a.m. I'm just saying like the next day. Like, or do you think average most like highest view is usually like, I don't know, a couple days, maybe the weekend? Like I'm trying.
No,
I wonder if the analytics.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like my parents, they watch a lot of stuff on Disney Plus because I like talking to them about it. But they, and I'd say I'd categorize them in the more general audience. But I would talk to them like, oh, did you just catch the new episode of Willow? They're like, oh, there's a new episode of Willow.
Yeah,
I'll watch it, kind of thing. Like not everyone is religiously. They don't know all the release dates. They have lives. They're doing.
A lot of people wait.
It's true. I mean, but pre-streaming era, this is a relatively new thing. I mean, it was just you go and watch it on TV on cable. I mean, you have your. And that's still
I hated that era. I'm sorry, I hated that era. Even as a kid, I'm like, I don't like this. I don't know. The fact that it's
every once in a while there is still a show that I will go and catch on cable. Atlanta on FX being one of them, and I sort of missed it. I sort of missed like tuning in at a certain time.
I missed the era, but let me tell you, the fear that was struck into me as a child because I didn't understand the concept of like recording it, or I thought if I see that episode, it was gone forever kind of thing. I thought if I missed a Clone Wars episode, I would never be able to see that again kind of thing.
That is true though, Ben, because when you're watching a show on cable, it's like right after you can hit Twitter and stuff and like, or I don't know, just like social media and see all these people talking about it. You still get the same thing, but it's also at 3 a.m. You're not getting nearly as many people.
And it just doesn't make sense because we see HBO doing it, Last of Us most recently, but Amazon House of the Dragons and like the 8 o'clock, and I just remember seeing videos after the first episode of House of Dragons of like someone's apartment building, and like every single TV in the apartment building was playing House of the Dragons, and it's like it's awesome. It's fun. Yeah. Everyone's awake, and it's like it's Sunday night, something to look forward to all week. Listen, I love Star Wars, and I can't wait for the next episode of any show. But I'm not like can't wait for 3 a.m.
Yeah, no, I dread it. Sometimes I'm like,
I mean, I can tell you why. I mean, do you want me to answer like the legitimate reason?
I guess so.
So if you remember way back when, in 2019, when Disney Plus launched, when Bob Iger was still CEO, Disney Plus did a lot of stuff like that. The Mandalorian premiere was at 5, 6,
and it would crash, right?
And it would and then no, sure, that's fine. They have to fix that on their back end, but they were willing to do that. Then when Rise of Skywalker came out, they would move an episode. They'd be like, we got to move this episode to give you more time for the content. And when Chapek's pencil pushers took over, they had that one Loki thing where, Loki does well on Wednesdays. We must put everything on Wednesday. And this is the way, I mean, it's the Chapek difference, man. He brought in a team of pure business people who just stare at numbers all day. That's literally what they did. That was his team. And they saw that, Kareem Daniel and all these people he shuffled in to just make numbers go higher. And for some reason, they saw that one thing, and literally, and every subsequent Disney Plus show literally did worse. I mean, Kenobi not only did it crush Miss Marvel, which was a dumbass idea, but Kenobi did well, but worse than the other shows because it was literally on a downward trend because you keep. It was so stupid. The whole thing was so stupid. But now that Iger's back in charge, I have faith that something. He can make those calls where he's like, no, move the damn episode. This doesn't.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, now that Big Daddy Iger's been back, but he's been back, buddy. He could have done something by now.
Yeah.
I think it's with other stuff. With Bad Batch, I'm content. It's animation. For some reason, the industry just views animation as lesser, as it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, because they're probably thinking like, oh, that's our kids show, and then this is our big boy adult show.
Yeah.
But even so, I think the point about it, the midnight / 3 a.m. release date still stands.
Yeah,
and I know it's dumb.
And I'm telling you, pretty much any other sort of media that will come out always does midnight East Coast time, 9 o'clock West Coast time. That's very common. Music specifically, any album coming out usually Thursday nights. Like they account for that because no one wants to stay up to 3 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why this is still a thing. I just feel like I see so many people complain about it, and I feel like it would just be better to have, because it would be 9 p.m. on the West Coast.
I know, so more people would watch it.
Yeah, that's a lot more. Even for some people, like midnight is staying up really late.
I know.
So 9 would be so much better.
Levi does the midnight, and I'm jealous. And even he comes on, and he's like, oh, man, I'm tired. And it's like, man, I wish it was midnight.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, in terms of this specific overlap with Bad Batch and Mandalorian, as a fan, I am to the point, after having lived through Clone Wars is cancellation, I am content just to have a consistent animation department on. That's what I like. Like if it starts to get canceled because of bad viewership, and that's the reasons they give, then I get mad. Like how they blame Solo. Like Solo had a whole. That's when the company blames their own decisions, self-admitted mistakes for the reason of not going forward with something, then I'll have justification to be angry at it. But as long as they keep making it and I keep enjoying it, which I do, I don't know. I don't really care. Like
either way though, I'm telling you, I'm not watching a Mando episode and then a Bad Batch episode on a Tuesday night.
We'd be up. I mean, some Mando episodes are like
we'd be up to like 5. We'd be up to like 5 in the morning.
The longest Bad Batch episode so far this season has been what, half an hour?
Half an hour. Like
Mando, probably, hopefully, will run about an hour. It won't.
Mandos are shorter for some reason. Mando's been the one show that's been.
Oh, you know what? Little side tangent. Like at one point, it was like, okay, I get it. Expensive to make, hard show to make, whatever, like 35 minutes of an episode, it's all right. After Willow came out, Andor, I mean Andor ran on the shorter side. Willow pretty much consistently was hitting like 50 minutes, and like it was doing something new, and so much happened in every episode, and like I don't know why. In Book of Boba the same way. I think it sort of just dragged its feet at times.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, the one really long episode of Book of Boba was I'm thinking of
the finale.
F7.
The finale's like an hour and 10.
Too long.
Yeah, there are some. Every now and then, like a Mando will come out and it's short. I'm like, okay, you know what? That justified being short. Like it felt like they got everything they wanted to get in. But then there's probably more episodes that are like, that was a great episode. Like, give me at least like 15 minutes more.
They need to be longer. They need to be longer.
The Tragedy is the best example where Jon Favreau gave Robert Rodriguez like a 17-page script, and that episode's like 25 minutes, but it's a killer. That is all killer.
I know it's a good episode, but it could be longer, and it. Like you could put good stuff in there.
I feel like most things would be better for being longer.
I just don't want to settle.
Yeah,
especially when you're getting an 8-episode show.
Yeah,
which is for real. I don't know. I know we've entered the limited series sort of stage of streaming where like nothing is really more than 8 episodes.
It's just long movies.
We would probably feel different if it was the Netflix where it all dropped at once, and like it was like, I don't know, you're just like zipping through them. But there were some Mando, like watching an episode of Mando or Book of Boba Fett had happened, and it was like pretty underwhelming a little bit, and like the episode length was really short. That hurt. And to stay till 3 a.m. to watch like you see it's like 20-minute playtime.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I am a fan of the like cable ordered 22 episode season type of like format. Like a lot of the shows I liked growing up were sort of that like long. It's been a tough adjustment going to the shorter stuff.
I agree. Andor was a step in the right direction.
Particularly the Marvel shows were just, I feel like all of them, I mean,
all the Marvel shows could be movies though.
Yeah, but then like make the movie or make it a show. Like,
yeah,
I think
that's why Marvel has been suffering, because their shows are like this weird in between. It's just
like and they just feel rushed. And Hawkeye, I think, is the best example of it just not having enough time to get done. Even Falcon and Winter Soldier is just, it couldn't stick the landing because you had to fit too much into one episode.
It's funny, if Hawkeye Marvel was a movie, I'd probably like it more. A lot.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it was probably the one show that had the most movie style storytelling, or just like,
I think maybe Falcon. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier could have been a movie.
Yeah, I think they all could have been a movie.
Oh yeah, I mean you're right. Loki couldn't.
Loki is the only exception that is a good TV show. That is just like how Andor could not be a movie.
I guess She-Hulk, it is meant, like it is literally meant to be a show. You think
but I could have seen a She-Hulk movie too out of that.
No, you're wrong about that. She-Hulk was definitely an episodic show.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't a good show. I actually like
She-Hulk. No, episodic. I'm saying it's episodic.
And I know it's episodic, but I'm saying I think it would have been better for the character. But
it would have to be a different show. I'm talking like you could just squish the 6 episodes of some of the Marvel shows together.
Yeah, some of them are literal. Like you could
have as a movie, and like just some slight editing would be enough to do it. She-Hulk, it would not work.
Yeah, no. Okay, I agree with you. Yeah,
Marvel has a real problem, especially it's because they're episodes, but like it's like 6-8 episodes where they get you really excited, and then it just peters out at the end because
I don't think there hasn't been an 8-episode Marvel show.
Has it all been 6?
Wanda was 9. WandaVision.
Wanda was 9. Sorry, Wanda was 9.
What was She-Hulk?
9 as well.
She-Hulk's 9.
Yeah, okay.
Longer.
So
God, and I was thinking like I remember I had stopped watching She-Hulk, but I wasn't doing this. I was at school and stuff, and I was like, I remember it was still going, and I was like, wow, this must be like a really long show. To hear that it's 9 episodes, I thought it was more. I'll be honest.
Well, and this is, I guess, where Daredevil Born Again comes into the conversation, and it's something that like it's 18 episodes.
The nerds.
18 episodes, something I'm excited about. Levi's like, I'm not going to be good, too long. I'm an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, right? Those are all 22 episodes, 45 minutes apiece. The poor writers had to like cram in all these references to the MCU, and they weren't. Marvel wasn't telling them like what they were going to do in every movie, like right up until like it came out, so they had to like write it at the last minute, and they made it work, and they made a good show out of it. And like, I just like long form television. I do. I think an 18 episode Daredevil show, it leaves room to explore, and I think that's what is missing in The Mandalorian and stuff. And imagine if it was a 12 episode show, and like then episodes like The Passenger wouldn't feel so much like a waste, because I don't think The Passenger is a bad episode, and it's good TV. It's fun. It's entertaining. But in the grand scheme of an 8 episode season, it's like you can just skip it. Like,
right. Yeah, especially to come off the premiere with that episode.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of Grogu and
the New Republic stuff.
Yeah,
like like it serves a purpose, but all of that like could have just been done and could have been thrown in alongside.
Friend of the show, Peyton Reed made
plot episode.
Ant-Man extraordinary.
I don't know. My point being, a longer TV show allows you to have those episodes without it feeling like a waste of time.
Right.
So
I've been having I'm glad you brought this up, because it's a discussion I wanted to just get into, which sort of deals with another story we want to talk about, which is Daisy Ridley, and mentioning how she might want to come back. Is I have really been having a crisis of conscience about what Star Wars should be in the movie sense, because it's been 4 years now since TROS. We're pretty removed now from the sequels. We're getting there. There was that period of we got 5 Star Wars movies, and now we've had all these shows, and with Kenobi being the way it was, and Boba disappointing a lot of people, particularly in the way it looks. Like, obviously these shows look different. Now, Andor is the only one that stands out to me as being like, this has to be a TV show. This has to work for me to be TV. But I was thinking, like, what if we had like a Mando? What if Mando 3 was the 3rd Mando movie? Like, would Star Wars be in a different place for, like, something about a movie has just been, it's after Babylon 2. Babylon's got me thinking about this, the art of cinema. Like, I don't know. I'm craving something in the theater.
I love
craving something in the theater.
You're absolutely right. Star Wars is always going to be work better in a cinema medium. I mean, it's just they're movies. I mean, it started off with six movies before you got anything else. I guess you got a holiday special and an Ewok story there, but we don't count those. But
Mandalorian, like, I see what you're saying, but Mandalorian also like opened up the door, like that, like Star Wars, like not
just for Star Wars.
Yeah, for Marvel as well. But it's like
streaming in general.
We can turn these into TV shows, and they're like, in my opinion, just as effective. Obviously, I see what you're saying about the movies, and I do agree to an extent that like getting if it was Mandalorian 1, 2, 3 movies, and like we were getting,
I think I might be more hyped is what I was thinking about.
Probably, but I just think about how hype it's going to be once we get that Mandalorian movie because of these shows and because of the Mandoverse stuff.
I was thinking, go ahead. Okay. Well, I was going to say, I like the idea of a Mando movie down the line. If you can sort of convert it with Ahsoka and whatever.
Right. It'll be a Mandoverse movie.
If it's a Mandoverse movie. Yeah. But if any of the shows that exist as of right now were to be a movie, it would have to be Kenobi.
It's got to be Kenobi.
Kenobi, it handling, the Revenge of the Sith. I mean, prequel characters, but like it almost being a sequel to Revenge of the Sith. I mean, even when you start watching Kenobi, you get like a 3-minute recap of Revenge of the Sith. Yeah,
literally. It's literally just like
it's just a whole prequel.
And there's scenes from Sith in the movie.
Exactly. And it's just, it feels so much like 4.5. And it's like, that should have been a movie. That should have been a movie.
I agree.
It would have been better if it was a movie. It would have had movie quality. Like, that's a show that needed movie quality, because it almost felt just at times, it's like, so I see Ewan McGregor, I see Hayden Christensen on screen. Like, it should feel like a movie, but it still feels like a low budget TV show.
Agreed.
So
I think Boba Fett could have been a movie too. as well. Not the story that we got and not the way it was told, but I think like Boba Fett would have probably
Mando. I like as a show.
I agree. Yeah, and I'm hoping to like Ahsoka as a show too.
I've been agonizing about it lately. I've been in an
I agree. An
existential like, is this good for Star Wars in the long run? Because there's just so much more. I'm thinking about the next generation of fans and just the way people getting into the brand, and there is just so much to watch now in pure hours of content. There's like 10 hours of Andor. Yeah, that is more than like the original trilogy.
To be fair though, Levi, think about how, I don't want to say Clone Wars was niche, but to most Star Wars fans around the world, it was something that like they didn't even know about. And we're getting characters from that in Mando, and it's clearly working for these casual fans and new people.
I don't know if it is, though.
I don't know if it is.
Really? Mando's doing really well.
Like that I talked to about Mando, they're like, I preferred season 1. They're like, season 2, it's like I don't know who all these people are.
I haven't really seen that, but I mean, the trailer.
I'm not saying they're not watching it, Dylan. I just don't think they're getting it.
I don't know if they're getting it. It's definitely not hitting as hard.
Why would all these people watch it though if they didn't like?
Well, because it's still a fun show. It's just a little bit of a, I don't know if I can even say it anymore. Can we talk about Guapo now that we're monetized?
Oh, Glub Shido?
Yeah. We're far enough into the video.
Glub Shido is fine. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't trying. I don't want to get us
Gluppo. Yeah.
We just got monetized again. I don't want to lose that. I don't know, but it is a very Glup Shido moment. Nowadays,
I think the exception. I guess when I think about my point, I'm thinking more Bo-Katan. When it gets to Ahsoka, it's like you need to know.
I don't know, dude. I will always tell this story. I remember the night I watched the Heirs. I would always watch it with a big group of people. And when Bo-Katan, this was the next day. Obviously, I would watch it, reacting on my own. But like when I would react with friends, and when Bo-Katan came down and took off her helmet, people were all like, "Oh, she's not a real Mandalorian."
Yeah,
but then it's confusing.
Like I feel like I know they explain it, but
no,
it's just a little confusing.
Yeah, they're instantly like,
I feel like that's kind of the point.
Should I care about this person?
Well, I feel like that's kind of the point of the episode for people that.
No, but my point is to say that people still get it and they're still watching it, but they're not understanding. But they're not understanding like the broader.
Yeah,
I think the most egregious example of this is Book of Boba, and maybe not so to the point where it's like it's characters people don't know because everyone knows Luke Skywalker. But I am still very much on the boat where it's like, as much as I love episodes 6 and 7, particularly 5 and 6, particularly 6, but it's like, what the hell is that doing in a Book of Boba? It just does not fit. And if you're the casual fan who maybe you haven't seen Mando and you're just like, oh man, like Boba Fett, like he's cool. I remember him from like the original.
I think it's
movies.
more the other way.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who've seen Mando who aren't seeing Boba Fett, and they're like, I've seen a lot.
Well, I mean that's a problem too. But even just I don't know if there's just someone who's like, yeah, Boba Fett, I remember him. He sounds cool. Like I'm on Disney Plus. I guess I'll watch the show. And then you're like, what is going on? Who is this random character? Why is Luke Skywalker here? Who's this orange alien?
No one knows.
Why is R2D2 here?
You have to be like a hyper nerd.
But even Cad Bane works a little better because you can still believe that there's this like
history between them.
Sort of. But they talk about the history so like sort of vaguely that it's like.
Even their history is
more deal.
It's not even canon. It's like
I feel like Cad Bane for me anyways is the highest example of like, okay, you should probably watch this other stuff to like for this to work for you. Personally.
I'm not a fan of this. I've experienced this personally because I watched The Mandalorian with my dad, and then we sort of watched like an episode of Book of Boba. He wasn't really feeling it. It's like whatever. And Mandalorian season 3 right around the corner. He's like excited for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you gotta watch the other
I gotta tell you, like Grogu is like back and he can use the Force now, like better. He's like, what?
That is true.
It's not good for the casual.
I mean, Book of Boba, I don't remember how well it did, but I remember there were reports. It's like, it's not doing Mando numbers. No, and so it's like, it's especially because I don't think that, me personally, do not think Book of Boba's like quality is on par with The Mandalorian. I feel like a lot of casual fans probably
will always
petered off. If they started the first couple episodes, they're probably like, okay, I'm not super interested in this. I'm going to stop watching. And then to come back to Mando, which they're like, oh yeah, I do love this. And it's just like the status quo is back to normal. That's so strange.
What I will say
hate that. No, I'm sorry. I had to cut you off because this has been such a big discourse online. It's been the Thrawn thing about how Thrawn is really a good guy. Oh my God. And how Boba, this is a Twitter thing, a big Twitter beef, but how Boba ruins the arc of Mando. I think that is the dumbest. I just don't get it. As a big Boba fan, I think it flows perfectly.
All right, well, I'll address.
Yeah, you say what you're going to say.
I'll address 2 out of 3 of those things. First off, well, I do think it ruins Mando's arc to an extent. Just because I think the end of season 2 is such an impactful moment. Maybe you don't agree. It
still happened though. It still.
I know, but I don't think they spend that much time apart. And I was just at the time before Boba, end of season 2. I get very excited about season 3, thinking about seeing Mando sort of on his own for a little bit and getting sort of the badass bounty hunter show that was initially like we only got for 1 episode of Mando season 1, where it's like he sort of starts to play dad. And of course, I mean, I love Mando, but like I thought it'd be fun to go see him on his own, maybe a little more ruthless, a little more brutal. Like
that was Ep 5 of Boba.
It's true. Yeah, I know, but it's just it's 1 episode. I was hoping for I was gonna say like a mid-season reunion.
He's not that guy anymore, though.
A mid-season reunion is what I don't know. I just think it happened a little fast, but more so. Not so much it ruins the arc, but I think the reunion in the Book of Boba is very weak. It is not an emotionally impactful moment. It's like it's sort of thrown into this whole scene that's being played for laughs. Them running around on the carriage.
I love it, man.
Pelimoto's like, your friend is here. And it's like, he's like, Grogu?
What the way Grogu jumps into his arms, I love it. I love it.
And that's good, but like, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's fine, but it could be way better.
Yeah. Think about where Mando was at after he drops.
Well, because it was
Grogu off. He's like, okay, I don't know when I'm going to see this guy again. The promise too. Where he's like, I promise I'll see you again. That gets you thinking like, oh shoot, what's that going to be like? Well,
exactly. The whole episode, the whole time you see Din, he's trying to get back to Grogu because he can't let this kid go.
I just think if you did those 2 episodes in Boba, and then you in episode like 3 or 4 of Mando season 3 is the whole episode 6 of Boba is Mando going and you get Luke and Mando, and that makes sense because Luke showed up at the end of Mando season 2. This is a character that makes sense to be in the Mandalorian season 3 now. It's like, why is he in Book of Boba?
Yeah, but that's their whole like MCU type approach now.
I know, and I don't think that that's what they should be doing. And I was going to respond to your other point, but I forget what it was now.
Well, firstly, to me though, to address the Book of Boba thing specifically, Din, not only does I feel we see Din struggling immediately with it, because he's literally all he's trying to do. He realizes he can't be without this child. He's just trying to get this child back. He's finding Mandalorians. He finds the covert just to make Grogu the little chainmail because he wants him to be safe. He has to go get him again. But Grogu, to the reunification point, I think it's way more about Grogu than it is about Din. And what we see Grogu make the choice. He chooses not to be with the Jedi. Like that's ultimately the thing. And John has always talked about that the story is based on Paper Moon. At the end of Paper Moon, the guy delivers the little girl, but she immediately runs back because they know they have to be together. And like the whole thing is the journey of getting this, the orphan to where it has to be. But ultimately the orphan chooses to be with their new parent. And so to me, it was always in the cards of that kid is not going to stay with Luke Skywalker. And he chooses not to be. We see him make that choice. And so Grogu is like, I am choosing to be with this guy. And so when he jumps into his arms, Din is like surprised. He's like, kid, what are you doing here? But for me, it was Grogu. It was Grogu flying back to, Mos Eisley in the X-Wing. He's like, no, I don't need the Jedi. I want my dad. And to me, that it works for me. I don't know.
Yeah. When you bring up the fact that I did kind of mentally block out that like Mando's like starts off in Book of Boba Fett and he's like, yeah, I gotta get back to this kid. Like I can't be doing this. But I do still think I would have preferred them to leave that stuff out of Boba, even though that's like some of the best stuff in my opinion.
That's a different argument. That's a different argument.
Leave that stuff out of Boba. Yeah. Even if you did that in Mandalorian, I still think like for the first 3 episodes, it's you get that episode of Boba, or the first 2 episodes or whatever. I would have probably had a similar thought process, but it would be, I think, better overall for the story if that's how it was done.
Yeah, it's a slightly different argument you're making, and everything you're saying, Levi, like is right.
Yeah,
I
think they both changed from their.
I know. I think I'm just talking more specifically to the point of
structurally.
I think that the scene in which it happens, the fact that it's in the midst of like a crazy action scene with Pelimoto, like doing all this goofy stuff in the Major Domo, and it's like it's being played for laughs, and what could be a very poignant moment is just sort of downplayed and sort of ruined by the fact that it's crammed into the middle of an action sequence, where I think that you could have built a whole really beautiful scene with an amazing soundtrack and like something just really like cinematically something very pleasing and just, you know, epic. Like this reunion where it's just like, it's just such a basic, like,
I disagree.
Oh, throw him into this carriage and like, that's the scene. Like, let's get it over with.
So I disagree on the basis of, I think they knew as creatively, Grogu was always going to come back to Mando, and to have, because I think them separating was that dramatic scene. That scene is incredibly dramatic.
I know.
No, and so to have their reunion, I know, but just have the reunion literally in the next season of this saga be like the same level of like, and we're back together. Like it wouldn't. I don't know. To me, that
I would prefer that than to like
they just
a
left.
Really beautiful like departure and then a very like quick like sort of half-assed reunion.
But to me, it speaks to who they are as this duo. And if they have the soapy dramatic reunion immediately after they just left, like in terms of chronologically as I'm watching, you know, if I'm watching it all through and I hit the Mando 2 finale and then by the end of Boba, they're like, and we're back together. Like, no, I rather they would just address the fact that no, this kid is making a different choice. And so by Mando 3, we're just rolling into it. Like we just keep going.
I was just going to say that I am the only part that I am kind of glad about is that, okay, we don't have, it could have been better, but we don't have to do that plot thread anymore. We can just go full steam ahead with like the Mando Grogu together again, doing all that stuff.
I think it's just, to me, at the end of the day, when like looking back, you know, a decade from now, Mando's over, and maybe goes for 4 seasons, maybe he goes for 5. I don't think it'll do more than that. And I look back and I think about, okay, so how was The Mandalorian as a show, as a 4-season show? And then so the end of season 2 is just completely irrelevant by the beginning of season 3 because of this other random show placed in between.
I don't think for me,
looking at television, it just doesn't work for me in that way.
Because that's why I was having this whole debate about the movies, because you can't watch the show on its own. To me,
no, I know you can. And I don't
when Ahsoka is out, when Skeleton Crew's out, it's an era. This Mando era. It really isn't the Mandalorian show. Yeah. Mando season 3 is part of the Mando verse as it's been dubbed. And this is when you watch it, it's one thing. And that's why they have on Disney Plus, they got that chronological timeline order. So you're going to be able to hit, you know, this and then Boba.
They were weirdly flip-floppy about that though. The way they would talk about it was sometimes it was like, yeah, this is the next chapter in the Mandalorian story. And then it's like, okay, no, it's a whole like new show on its own. I think like, again, even though I think like the quality between Book of Boba Fett,
they literally call it Mando 3. They call it season 3 in the production.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna say, I think it would, in my mind, be like a Mando season 3. Like that's like, I don't love that. I again, for casual people,
2.5,
like just 2.5. Yeah, for
casual I think it should have been called Star Wars: The Mandalorian: The Book of Boba Fett.
I know, because it's the chapters and it's literally this is the Book of Boba Fett. Like,
Dylan, I don't know if you remember this, but I think you had thought I cut you off, but I was championing so hard. I was like, when this show starts, this better be chapter 17. That's what I like before the show even came out, before I knew Mando was in it, like, and all that stuff. I was like, this should be chapter 17.
Sure.
Like,
and that would work to me. But it's more so I just sort of argue this, and this was even all, you know, I think you look all the way back to my episode 6 reaction. And I think I share this sentiment of Book of Boba Fett. It's just that Star Wars is something that should be accessible to everyone. And it always has been that way, where you could be 7 years old or you could be, you know, 80, and you could waltz on into A New Hope in 1977 and just have your mind blown. And it's this whole universe that can appeal to everyone. And that's what makes Star Wars so great. That's why we all love it. That's why it's just such this, you know, wonderful thing that is a big part of all of our lives. And I just think you start to lose that when you can't hop into a project. You can't just be like, oh, maybe I'll just go ahead and give this Book of Boba Fett a watch. You can't do that anymore. And I think that the MCU has had this going on for a long time now, but they've been consistent about it. And everyone knows it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know what you're getting into. And Star Wars, it doesn't have that tag on it. Like, you can, for the most part, watch Star Wars sort of on its own.
Yeah, and definitely.
I don't mind the way it's going as a huge fan, because of course I'm going to watch this stuff anyways. But when I think about it in a larger industry perspective,
that's what I'm saying, it makes me nervous.
How the casuals going, it makes me nervous. And which makes me sort of want to shy away from the interconnectivity of the whole thing.
I will say,
at the end of the day, we should just have more movies.
It's very funny because on this episode, the Boba episode came out almost 2 years ago now, or sorry, a year ago. Sorry, I read 2 because it was 2022. But I'm looking at our saved chats between me and Ben. We've been having this debate since literally the night it came out, and it's but at the end of the day, you were like, TBH though, this is the most amazing thing to ever happen. At the end of the day, I love Luke and Ahsoka more than Boba, so I can't be mad. But then you're like, it's. And I say too, I'm like, I totally get where you're coming from, but the fact that we've been having the same debate, though, I think it's funny that
it's valid.
It's valid. It's
a valid debate, and I think
it's tough.
We're having the debate as Star Wars fans and just as like fans of the film and movie and TV industry.
Yeah,
because
we're having the debate, but despite like what started this was the third season of the show just got the best numbers for the trailer, so clearly it's still doing something right, and that's despite Book of Boba Fett like throwing this wrench in.
To take it back.
And I don't know, just a lot of the things that we're saying are going against it, so clearly it's still working.
Okay, yes,
I don't know where they're getting the numbers,
but we haven't actually hit the fallout of the Book of Boba experiment yet. That hasn't happened yet. Come episode 1 of season 3, I think. I mean, I bet you that there are casual fans out there that have no idea that Grogu and Mando have reunited. That they don't know
until they see the trailer.
But maybe they haven't. I mean, not everyone is like so on top of the trailers.
You think they'll do a recap?
Oh, I'm sure. They always do.
Yeah,
they always do a little like last time on. It's just I don't know. We haven't actually hit the point where people are going to be confused and be like, "Why?"
I think there's going to be a big push from not only Lucasfilm but fans and people's friends being like, "Oh, just watch the last couple episodes."
I mean, it's like Clone Wars, like we were talking about too. It's like you watch with casuals and you're like, and this is a little different because it's more like directly connected. But like Clone Wars, it's like, oh, you should probably just watch Clone Wars. Like, go watch Clone Wars. Like, you'll get this and that.
I know. Well, yeah. At least it's a little easier to be like, go watch this 7-episode show. Go watch this 7-season. Like, how many episodes of Clone Wars are there? Like 150, 120. Yeah, a lot. And then Ahsoka is going to come around. It's like, oh, you're going to want to go watch Rebels, by the way.
I think Ahsoka, you talking about the experiment. Ahsoka is going to be the big experiment. Because ultimately, Clone Wars has a huge fan base, yes, but for the Disney Plus live action audience, that show's ratings will be the definitive, yes, people are understanding the connectivity of this whole universe, or no, people are not getting it. Because Ahsoka is the like.
I know, but that's separate. I mean, the Ahsoka universe, like she sort of fits in the Mandoverse, but if anything, from what we know about rumors and casting and stuff,
it's gonna be like Rebels.
It's gonna be
Rebels. Even more.
Essentially, just gonna be the Rebels sequel.
Yeah.
In live action.
Hu Yang's in it, dude. We saw Hu Yang in the celebration trailer.
That's gonna be really tough. Like, I mean, even getting someone to go and watch Rebels, even if they're a huge Star Wars fan, is not an easy task. Because
it's tough to get even you. Rebels.
I know. Yeah.
Even you. I mean, you go ahead and you start up episodes of Rebels. It says Young 7 in the top left, and it's like
you're like,
and it's and even the first few episodes are like, I like them and now, but it's
I like the premiere. No, the premiere's goated.
I do too. It's just.
Yeah,
that Clone Wars, even Clone Wars, that's a tough sell. Rebels is a tougher sell, but I really have faith that Ahsoka is going to, even if we do end up getting Ezra and and Sabine and characters and stuff like Hera, like I think it'll work.
I think
based on rumors, we know we will. But
we saw Hera, we saw Sabine.
Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, we did see that. I forgot.
Disney has to make their own everything you need to knows on Disney Plus, like a 5-10 minute video.
It's funny that they do that for Marvel.
Yeah, they do. They do it pretty extensively for Marvel, actually.
I guess just as a film buff, like just big TV guy, movie guy, like I just don't think that should ever be necessary.
Anyway,
no, I don't.
Maybe
Levi's. I mean, Levi's the guy that is always like, oh, it's in a book though. Like it makes sense.
I know
it's in the book. So it's like true. I guess Star Wars
is the kind of stuff that would send like Martin Scorsese to his grave. It
would. And this discussion would kill Martin.
It would kill Martin.
To transition more to the films, because Star Wars, hell or high water, the rumor is they want a movie out by 2025. That is the rumor.
They've been trying.
And over the years, we had Patty Jenkins, Taika
Waititi,
Kevin Feige.
I could throw him in there.
Ryan Johnson. I mean, Ryan Johnson is
trilogy they've been talking about for a while.
He's always been like, I'm going to do Knives Out first, and then maybe I'll come back. But anyway, Rogue Squadron, they literally announced the video, like that crazy. Anyway,
that happened.
That was supposed to happen. That was we should have seen.
Point being, now, crazily, this is what I want to talk about. I personally, this is a discussion. I don't think any of those movies are ever coming out.
No.
But Lindelof,
except for the Rian Johnson ones.
I hope so. But Damon Lindelof
in the Feige.
Damon Lindelof Star Wars movie, the writer of Watchmen, Lost, etc., JJ collaborator. His movie seems to be going full steam ahead into production. And from the Hollywood Reporter and Deadline and all that, the rumor is they did a writing room, last year. They got a script. They're ready to go. They're going to shoot this summer. So this movie it's coming out. People think it's going, but it's going to be post Rise of Skywalker. And Daisy Ridley, I referenced this earlier, has been interviewed a couple times lately. We saw her a couple months ago at Lucasfilm. She was in San Francisco, and she's like, I was just stopping by. Dude, you live in London, man. You don't fly to like San Francisco to be like, yeah, just for some lunch.
We had this happen not too long ago as well, right? Daisy,
I think
exactly. It's a very similar situation.
Yeah, we've covered this like a year ago.
It was less, she was less out about it. And it wasn't her directly talking about how, like, yeah, I'd come back, but her and I think it was Kathleen.
Yeah, Kathleen had lunch.
Met up. Yeah.
So it's increasing. Like, are we going to see these? Are these new movies going to be more sequel era movies? Like, is that really what's happening?
Recent news is she's like, I want them to call. She's very coy. It's sort of funny. She's like, I need employment. She's like, that would be awesome.
But come on, actors lie all
the
time.
I know.
Andrew Garfield.
My point being is that's actually good, based on the
good
answer.
News.
Based on the answer, and we've just seen it time and again, and it feels like, especially after Andrew
Garfield,
Andrew basically turned into a marketing stunt for the movie, because they were talking about it on like talk shows, which is like,
remember when Jimmy
questions need to be cleared.
Yeah. So it's like that was pretty much part of
the put up the leaked photo. I was like, is this you? And he was like, no, man, not me.
It was hilarious. So funny. And then he was lying the whole way through. So obviously it means nothing. But I think nowadays, even just based off of actors' answers, will give you the real answer. You don't pay attention to the words, but it's more the way they phrase it.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson actually has my favorite one.
I don't know what Star Wars is.
He's like, are they still making Star Wars? He's like, I didn't even know they were still making that. It's like,
that's the funniest one.
You're in it. You were in it, motherfucker.
I was sorry.
Well,
we get one. It's like a PG-13 movie. We get one.
Sorry.
And Ewan McGregor kind of had that too. It wasn't really
years.
bad, but yeah, he was going for it, and I think he did an all right job. Just because the idea after
he was at the Solo premiere. Yeah. He was at the premiere because they were going to announce it the next day.
During sequel time, it's that like Disney wanted nothing to do with the prequels. It felt like, at least, and I know that to be true. Anyways, is that they didn't. When Force Awakens, their idea was, okay, people don't like the prequels. Let's not dance around that, or let's dance around it rather. And so an Obi-Wan show would not have happened in my mind.
No, they were trying to make it. They just couldn't get it off the ground. I mean, I think that's a little bit misrepresentative. I think JJ doesn't like the prequels as much. Man.
I think that the sequel hate needed to happen for this new prequel.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for Disney to realize I don't think Mando happens if the sequels aren't hated as much as they were. I believe that. And even Mando, at least season 1, is pulling a lot from OT stuff, in my opinion. But like, I don't know. This is like,
I think it was really the success of Clone Wars season 7.
It was season 7 that really
and they saw how much
season 7 happens without the hate either, though.
I don't think no.
Without the
people,
not even
no, they would have been working on it way before Last Jedi.
Well, they were always working on it, but I don't think it gets fully greenlit without.
I think I always fight back against this narrative of certain media feeding into others. Like the timelines just don't match.
Yeah, I'm with Levi on this. It's easy to look at it from an outsider perspective, but you got to think about how much time goes into production of these shows, like in pre-production. And I think they were well underway.
Season 7 had already been somewhat done, like way when Clone Wars
those episodes,
not those. Yeah, I guess not those. Not the Mandalorian, Ahsoka stuff, not the Trace and Rafa stuff. That's all.
And that takes as we know, it's like years. 2 years, like they make character models. Like we always see, the one I always go to is when Bad Batch was coming out. We saw Cad Bane, and they released the Cad Bane character model. It was like November 2019 that they made that thing. I'm like, that came out. They did the 2 years. That was before COVID. Like that's crazy. But in terms of, I think that Disney silencing the prequels is way overblown.
Maybe it's a JJ thing then.
Well, I don't think it's JJ. I don't think it's necessarily JJ. I think it's true that he maybe doesn't like the prequels, but I always go to, this isn't my story. Ken Knapsack of Force Center always tells this story. But at Celebration 2015, I mean, the prequels weren't in the place they are now. I mean, people didn't bring prequel stuff.
Yeah.
It was not like they were selling, Disney as a company was marketing, and they were trying to get some stuff sold. They would still make figures and stuff, and the prequels just weren't. It wasn't the same. And Force Awakens, it's not so much JJ to me, it's Lawrence Kasdan. Kasdan, who writes half of the original trilogy. He's bringing that sensibility to Force Awakens, and I think Kasdan himself didn't necessarily agree with what George did with the prequels as someone who wrote the original Star Wars. I mean, he made Han Solo who he was. He made Return of the Jedi. Like, those are his movies. And so when he came to JJ and JJ wanted, and Disney wanted, like, that's not wrong. Disney did want something that was different than the prequels. But when you hire the guy who wrote the original trilogy, he's going to bring that sensibility to your movie. Right, and likewise, when Ryan writes, he loves the prequels, and he puts in Luke Skywalker talks about Darth Sidious and the fall of the Jedi, like that. A prequel fan wrote that line. Like, I got to see Luke Skywalker talk about the prequels on screen. For me, that hyped me up.
Okay, well, let me to Dylan's point. I'll say
it depends on the filmmaker.
To Dylan's point, I'll say this. I think if the sequels were being made today, let's say the 3 sets of movies had never came out, but we had Mando, Clone Wars, everything that's come besides the movies, they absolutely would feature a Hayden Christensen Force Ghost. Luke would be in it far more.
But I feel like even by we got to Revenge of the Sith, Rise of Skywalker, like, they should have had that sensibility. It's like, let's see the Force Ghost. Like, let's see, like, I don't know. I felt
maybe, but I think the success of Kenobi and I don't know if they realized how much people love Hayden. And that's Star Wars fans, because the narrative out there among most casual people that have seen the movies is
that he's awful. Yeah.
Like, and even though maybe if you're in the Star Wars space, it doesn't feel that way, because you almost only ever see gushing love for Anakin. Yeah. But the average person who saw Revenge and Attack of the Clones, they're like, yeah, he sucked. So I think that's what Disney sees.
If I can interject one more time to finalize this conversation, it's also on my mind. The whole reason I brought this up is because last night I watched in full for the first time the documentary "The People versus George Lucas," which was made by fans.
Shout out Star Wars only. Oh wait, no, that's not him.
No, well, that's he did make. He did make those kind of documentaries, but no, this is one that was in theaters. Like, they made, the fans were so angry at George that in 2010, 2011, 2009, that's it was in production, but it came out in 2011. Like, they made a movie called, like, the whole thing is about how much people hated like what he did and what he did to them, and how it was an attack on them. And like, there was such, like, if you're a corporation and you see in 2012, after you buy this thing the year before, the fans of that content hate you so much that they have produced a feature-length documentary about how much they did not like what you did. That's that sends a message in terms of
it is true. I mean,
like, monkey brain economics. Like, we don't want to make that because people don't want to buy that.
It would definitely be the safe thing to be like, okay, yeah, let's not touch that.
But I was watching it and it made me sad. Like, I was like, damn, do these people like? It was just a lot of people. Like, there was a guy who went after Attack of the Clones. He didn't watch Revenge of the Sith. He was like, I can't watch it. Like, I was turned off. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, that's so sad.
Oh no.
I was like, I can't imagine being in that point in time. And like, Clones turns you off so much that you're like, I'm just done with Star Wars, man.
But that's crazy.
I mean, I feel like the sequels Loki did that for some people.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I was talking about like the parallels at this time.
In my experience, if I had really quit on Star Wars that much and just not watched Trust, I think my life would be better for
it. I mean,
I'm just kidding. But
keep going, Ben.
I was just gonna say, like, I love Attack of the Clones, but I can sort of understand how jarring it would be to see C-3PO getting swung around by like a droid in like a droid factory. What does he say? He's like,
it's just a lot of crazy stuff.
He has some awful line, and it's like, what is? Like,
it's one after the other. When he's being dragged by C-3PO, his head, he literally goes, "Oh, this is such a drag."
Yeah, like, I can see being like, you know what, I'm done with this.
Especially because that movie was for a lot of people probably okay. They were like, oh, what, like Phantom Menace? That was weird. Like, okay, let's see if it gets better.
The Phantom Menace hatred in this, and you should. It's a great documentary. It's only about 90 minutes, but a little bit longer than that. But it is. I mean, it fairly. Interestingly, I think the filmmaker did a good job of he doesn't just, it's not just hate. It's just the fact that the overwhelming opinion was hate. He puts in other opinions. And so like he interviews kids, and like the kids are like, oh dude, we love the prequels. Like they're like the prequels are shit, man.
Yeah.
Pardon my French, but like it's this great moment with a family where the kid is it's a, you know, he's probably 6 or 7, and they have all like the movies laid out, all 6. And the dad is like, let's watch this one. And the kid like grabs the Revenge of the Sith and like Attack of the Clones. And is like, no, these ones are the best ones. And then he's like, he's trying to like fight his dad. And that's, you know, there was hope in the future of the franchise, even at that low point. But so many people, I just overwhelmed me about how I didn't realize how many people were really just turned off by what George did. As someone who was growing up at the time, I loved it. To me, the big one,
social media either. So like that's people, like it probably would have been a much more massive, like a Last Jedi level plus more. I'd say
it would have been more. You know what it was? It was the special editions. That's what the overwhelming hate was for. People hate the special editions.
Yeah.
And I can't even conceive it, right? Because I was born long after.
Yeah.
But people,
there are things that annoy me about them, but
despise.
Unfair.
That's the rage.
Well, this is sort of an interesting. Well, say your point, Dylan, because I'm going to take.
I was trying to bring it back to Daisy, so I'm just trying.
Okay, my little just quick segue is that I think people have been talking about in a decade from now, are the sequels going to get this resurgent love that the prequels got for all the kids that grew up with it? Because, and I don't know if that was more of a social media thing or more of the fact that people who grew up with the sequels are now the people that primarily are sort of dominating the social media area, where it's like we love the prequels and we always have. Whereas, like you said, I mean, a decade ago, like the overwhelming consensus was the prequels sucked, and now they're beloved. Is that going to happen again in a decade for the sequels? Because even though Levi here will disagree, I think once again the overwhelming consensus is that they were like movies.
I agree. Yeah, I agree that that's probably at least. I don't know how casuals necessarily feel. I think that most hardcore fans, at least 60%, are like, yeah, those are like mid. I don't love them.
Yeah, I'd give you that split. I get a 60-40 split.
I want to go more. I want to go more than 60-40. But
in my experience, it's like 70-30. But
yeah, I agree.
I don't think this is going to happen.
You don't?
I don't.
Oh wow.
I don't think so either.
Oh, I couldn't disagree. I couldn't disagree more. But
yeah. But if Daisy,
just because I saw myself in some of those prequel fans who were like, no, it was good in this sea of hatred, and I'm like, this is me. This is me now, and it made me.
I think there's just a lot more to. I think that to me the prequels sort of are these like underrated masterpieces where
people are saying all the same crap about the prequels that people say now about the sequels, that I'm like,
yeah, it was just a different time though, because so much of the hatred was coming from the digital aspects of it and this sort of new look and this new jarring CGI, and people are like, oh, go back to practical, and you don't have that with the sequels. There's nothing about it that's going to stick out technologically. It's not going to be like, oh, well, this aged well. Or
point being though, Dylan, is that I think that when they were starting the production process of the sequels, it wasn't so much of a deliberate anti-prequel thing. That was just the prevalent mindset. Now going into 2025, 10 years after Force Awakens, and we're going to get maybe another sequel era movie.
Well, yeah.
Do you think it's going, like, that's what I'm trying to get at? Like,
I just
is this going to be the one?
I don't know why that's their first choice, is to be like, all right, our first movie. I don't think it was their first choice either, because we know of all these other projects that were.
Rogue Squadron seemed like it was also going to be sequel.
That is true. But it didn't seem like it would necessarily directly tie to the main.
I think Poe would have been in it for sure.
Poe probably, but with Daisy coming back, I mean, that is basically a continuation of.
And we can assume John Boyega would be around for that too.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want it without him, honestly. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Stuff so bad.
So is it a trilogy though? Because if you're gonna make an entrance, and you're gonna use these characters that, like, whether or not you like it, Rey is declared a Skywalker at the end of TROS, and they are, for better or worse, ingrained in what is the Skywalker saga. So when you're talking about, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, like, you got to talk about, Finn and Rey as being just as important in that Skywalker story. I know a lot of people hate that that's a real. I mean, even me, I'm not sure about
that felt weird
concept.
to hear you say.
But think it's true though. It's the Skywalker saga, and they are just as big hitters in the grand scheme. I mean, Rey. I mean, it's like
they're the future of the Jedi, man.
Rey's the main character.
Rey's the main character of. I mean, she's
movies.
nearly the main character of Star Wars, considering she's the first one to actually kill Palpatine. Like
okay, she's not the first. That's not true. That's okay. I can't have you lie. I can't have you lie on the pod.
Listen, man, I haven't read whatever stupid book
that's
explains
not, okay,
this.
pause.
What I saw is Palpatine die and Return to the Jedi.
He did die,
and then somehow he returned because he dropped a podcast. And
he
okay, but I don't know. But I don't know that because I haven't read some dumb book about characters
you don't have
I don't
to
care
read the
about.
book. Watch the movie.
This is literally this would be a good segue to watch the holiday special after.
Because I was dead.
No, he says. Not only does he say I have died before, but the whole plot of the movie is him trying to come back. He is dead. That man is gone. He is not. She does not.
Okay, well, he's not
again.
dead because he's chilling.
He did a pretty good cut.
He's
He's doing pretty good for not being dead.
Ben, come on now. Okay.
No, what do you come down?
Is Obi-Wan dead in episode 6? Yes, he's dead. He's still in the movie though.
Okay, that's a Force ghost. That's different than him.
It's the same concept. He's clinging to life.
We never see Obi-Wan actually interact with anything.
Yeah.
He's
Obi-Wan
just there
he
giving
sits on a log, man. He sits on that log.
I know. Okay, but that's different. That is different than Palpatine shooting lightning up in the sky.
No,
and
that's
taking
when
down
he's
the
back.
entire
That's
fleet.
that's when he's back. When he sucks out their diet energy. That's him. He's back then.
Okay, I don't know what this is. Beside, I forget even what point I was making. Okay, I now I remember. Is it those are Skywalker saga characters? Rey, Finn, for better or worse, they're just as important in the main. She's just as important in the main storyline. So you start to bring these characters back. Like it's another entry into the Skywalker saga. Like 100%. If she is a Skywalker, as they claim at the end of the movie, then it's part of the Skywalker saga. Yeah. So that's why a movie like Taika excites me, not because it's Taika or whatever, but just the idea that he was like, it's going to be completely separate. And I think that's the direction they should go with the movies. So this idea of bringing back, Finn and Rey and Poe.
So bad, man.
I think that's where
I'm not saying I don't,
works.
but I think a show would work there better too, because all of a sudden I'm like, okay, so this is 10. This is now 10.
I mean, Luke Skywalker himself is in Mandalorian. You don't consider that a Skywalker saga project. I feel like if you're gonna do sequel stuff, like make it a show.
Because they're gonna do sequel stuff in Mando too.
Or if you're gonna go sequel stuff with the main characters, maybe I could see Rey and such as maybe, I don't want to say background characters, like semi-supporting characters that are in it for a bit that wouldn't constitute it to be one of these Skywalker saga movies. But if they're the main characters, which they should be in a project about,
I don't think they will be though. They wouldn't be.
From recent leaks, I don't know if I forget who reported this, but apparently there's leads of this movie.
There are leads
that are not, and they're people of color, female is allegedly the lead of this movie.
Well, no, there's two. It's dual leads. It's actually it's a man and a woman.
So you're right. So it seems like they'd be at least supporting characters, but I don't know. It just starts getting confusing for me. And obviously, from what I've said the last 5 minutes, I'm maybe not the biggest sequel fan, but I've been talking about getting Rey and Finn back in for a while now. Something I've really wanted because
Jedi Finn, baby. Green
I think that the sequels deserve the chance that the prequels got with something like Clone Wars, where it can flesh it out. And
I think they're getting it in Mandalorian.
Don't talk about Resistance to me. But yeah, Mandalorian and maybe whatever this movie is. But to me, that would work better in like a Finn TV show where you have like Rey training him. Like that to me,
because I want to see that. I want to see that a lot.
But do I want to see that in the first movie since 2019? I don't know. It's going to have been 6 years at that point.
Exactly.
And I don't know.
Maybe I do, but the way that the Skywalker saga is structured, I don't. Like, it's only because of like how I guess fragile would be a word. How fragile like that is, or like that concept is for Star Wars. It's not like the MCU where with the movies they just keep building. Like these are like 9 movies that are like, as you said, the Skywalker saga. That is like a complete project right there. You would have to do another trilogy if you're using these characters again.
I don't think so. I disagree.
I think
everything's
I don't know if you need a trilogy, but it would be an entrance to the Skywalker saga because she's literally a Skywalker. It would be 10 to me.
Yeah, it would be episode 10.
Unless she's just like a cameo or like she's in a couple scenes.
Also, a time jump might rectify that a little bit.
Yeah, but it's not like there haven't been time jumps in the other 9 entries.
Yeah, that's true. Saga. I mean, literally the sequels is a massive time jump. I just feel like I don't know.
It's tough.
It's a tough one because I could see a trailer that really excites me of the concept we're thinking about.
Here's a question: do you think when we watch The Acolyte, is that part of the Skywalker saga to you? To me, no.
No, I don't think so.
No, not at all.
But it still has Yoda.
Because Yoda, okay, just Yoda.
Yeah, but it is
and that
so
makes
far
sense
removed.
Yoda's gonna be around. It's so far removed. My point is that it's not that this Lindelof movie,
but it's still a story. It's still a story about the Sith. Features Palpatine might Plagueis.
No, but I know, but it's not like this. It's like I don't count Solo to be part of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, what absolutely is 100%. Any movie that takes place between Episode 1 and 9, any show is part of the Skywalker saga.
I know, but
Mandalorian is squarely part of the saga.
Does it add to the characters of the Skywalker saga? Yeah, but like it's not. To me, it's still separate. Whereas like a Lindelof movie featuring the 3 protagonists of the sequel movie and a Skywalker, literally a proclaimed Skywalker, like you get a movie about them. To me, that's Episode 10.
Yeah. No, I don't think it has to be Episode 10 though.
It just depends on how they handle it. I mean, it's all speculation.
I think they do all that.
I mean, Daisy could have been coming up for a show. We don't know. She could be coming in for a commercial. Who knows?
It's true.
Could have been to sell products.
We don't know. Either way, if we're getting back into the movies, there are other things I would rather see, like a High Republic movie, or
exactly.
So would I.
Or something.
Mainline movies should be reserved for the big, like well, I mean, I don't know, say that, but years down the line, and it's like a big deal.
It should be a trilogy.
Yeah.
We are literally getting a live action High Republic though in Acolyte.
No, I know exactly. But like I'm saying, we're talking movies. If we're talking about the return to the theater, and it's something like, so they have the streaming shows coming out, 2-3 times a year, and then maybe once every 3 years we get to go back to the theater, and it's something new every time. Instead of it being still attached to the Skywalker saga, let it die. Let it be said and done. Do a High Republic. Do like I don't know, and you can still use characters. It just. I don't know, like a Darth Vader movie or something. Like I would be down with that.
We already have a couple of those.
Well, once Kenobi should have been a movie, but
yeah. I see what you're saying. One final point before we wrap up here, over an hour, is that Jeff Snyder, the In Snyder, who has been the source of a lot of these very accurate leaks. He's the first one who reported that Damon Lindelof was even making a movie months and months, 6 months before the trades got it. So this guy, I mean, he's plugged in. He's also where the source of the leads is when he talks about these movies, upcoming Star Wars, because he's talked about how he doesn't think Taika is happening, et cetera, et cetera. He refers to, and I quote, the 2025, 26, and 7 films. He has said that they are making a movie for 2026 and that they will not adhere to they're going back to one every year. So with that in mind, I don't know. Like,
have we never had a Star Wars movie every year?
Yeah, we did for 5 years since 2015.
Okay, but not. I got you, but not within the same. Like,
it definitely doesn't help your point, Levi, when the point of entry gets much harder every time they release a new project.
I know
they're coming out with.
I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's a thing that they're doing.
And they definitely have to reevaluate their approach because you saw how Solo did. I mean, obviously that's a whole different can of worms, but it's like it's gonna have to be different than how they did it, and I hope it is different than how they've done it before.
Yeah, I hope. But with that in mind, with the fact that they're making more movies, I mean, I feel like we're the 2020s. It's so weird to say the 2020s, the 2010s, and the 2020s. Time is going so fast for Star Wars. Oh wow, I was thinking about that. I'm like, what were the 2010s?
Levi has a
franchise?
Crisis.
I know. I was like,
a lot.
Oh my god, like oh my god.
Yeah, Rebels, Clone Wars, 5 movies.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, oh my god, like a lot happened.
What happened, and but I think even more will happen in the 20s because we're already a couple years in. We have like 5 shows.
Most content.
We're about to have Bad Batch and Mandalorian topple on top of each other.
Video games seem to be coming back too.
You're right, Ben. Yeah. I think it's accurate to say that there's been more content, numbers wise, hours wise, in the 2020s than all of the rest of Star Wars.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
we have to add it up, but
on-screen content, I think for sure.
On its own is already crazy. And considering we're getting 2 seasons of that, like Cassian Andor will be like have the character with the most screen time, like
in the whole saga.
Wars.
Yeah,
it's just
ridiculous.
But yeah, I think it's been a good discussion.
I think so too.
I'm not sure if I have closure or answers, but we talked.
No, it's a lot of questions that hey, we can look back on this one day and be like, we were right, we were wrong, or we're all.
But we want you guys to add to the conversation. So get down there in the comments and let us know.
Let us know what you want the next Star Wars movie to be. Tell us.
And also, you can flex that you made it this far into the podcast.
It's true. So I mean, there's I think there's probably like 15 questions posed in this podcast. So if you want to answer every single one of them in the comments,
that'd be wow. Yeah.
Separate
comments.
To help the algorithm.
And reply
to
other people too.
And reply to other people and like it and subscribe.
Start a friendly argument with some people down there.
It's true. You want to send us out, Levi?
Sure. I mean, yeah, we pretty much just did.
I guess we did.
Yeah, do all that stuff again. Follow us.
Do the song.
What?
The music at the end. It's so much easier if you like do an official outro. So just go for it.
Well, I was sort of like midway.
He was in the middle of it.
Yeah, when I was like mid-sentence.
Whoops.
Why'd
you like point at me too?
I pointed at you because you're doing the outro.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for getting this far. Let us know all your answers to our question down in the comments. Like, subscribe, and we will see you next time, Mondays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you very much.